Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Doctor.
Hopefully you can hear me.
Good evening.
Loud and clear, Doctor.
I'm sorry that there might be some background noises. The hotel that I stay here in Morogoro in the 4th floor is receiving some background noises from a particular church around. They are in the praise session now, so sometimes you can hardly or scarcely hear again some voices around, but I'm trying to ignore as much as I can because we are in the class. You are all welcome. We are about to land down to the final station in our travel using our big aeroplane that is strategic management. It is my prayers that when we come to the final station, I do the review and the summary from topic 1 to the last topic, and also try to elaborate some questions and the way we can handle, the way we can attempt them when they come to the exam. So as I pray for you, also pray for me in the midst of the busy schedule. I am able to meet you sometimes for doing the review of the whole module from topic number 1 to the last topic, and also try to do some of the practical and case study questions because I usually bring case study questions and the practical question. It is my prayer that you all pass, you all score A's if it is possible. So as I pray, you also pray. Let's join hands together. Let's pray. But prayer is not enough. We need also to work hard. But I believe when I do the review, you will get the whole picture of the module and even the whole picture of the questions and how you can attempt it. I'm preparing for that. And remember, this is my area and I have been practicing it since 2018. And even currently, I'm carrying 4 assignments that are related to strategic management that are national and international. So you are most welcome. You are with me, CRN, tonight, your best friend. As we start, I ask you for your attention. Today, we are going to have a timed assignment, and all the answers will be given through the chat board, and we'll be having 30 minutes for that timed assignment. Make sure that your name is full. If your name is not full, get prepared to get out of the platform. For instance, if you say 010951. You say 3151353. Now have a full name, like the one we see Adeline Gumbua, Aden Mwasundube. But if you say Admin, what is Admin? Advocate Mdakie Jacob Mapunda. Even if you are the advocate, usually when we write our names, I know you'd like to be recognized as an advocate, as a doctor, as a professor, but because we are in the class, just put the official names, not advocate, not professor, not doctor. Yes. So identify yourself with full names, like Agatha Kosoka. For instance, my full name is CRN Charles Raphael. That is, but I can't say my full name is doctor or professor. No, my full name is CRN Charles Raphael. And if you sometimes also get time, learn when do we call somebody doctor or professor or advocate or CPA. Learn on the situations that you can use those names. For instance, now I'm in the class, I can say doctor, but when I get out of this class, I'm no longer the doctor, I'm CRN Charles Raphael. Sometimes I met Tanzanians and they call me doctor, even in the restaurant, in church. No, I'm not. I'm CRN Charles Raphael. But when I'm presenting something related to my area of profession, I can be the doctor. When I get out, I'm no longer a doctor. There are wives who call even the husbands doctor or professor or mheshimiwa. No, that is the misuse of those titles. When you meet me, wherever, call me CRIN. I am CRIN. You can call me doctor when I'm presenting. Out of presentation, so if you are advocate something, please remove, write a full name. Don't not advocate so and so, doctor so and so, professor so and so, or CPA so and so. At the moment, put your full name. I think those who do not deserve, who do not adhere to what I'm instructing, I think they need to be out of the platform because they are not prepared to study. You write the name Bettina. What is Bettina? Put full names. Why should we be repeating always this? Why? You are managers. Why can't you hear and respond accordingly? I'm waiting for you to change your names. Have full names. Theopista Kumwenda, you are raising your hand. Can you speak?
Yes, thank you so much, Doctor. Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry, Doctor, while people are changing their names, coming with a request that if it pleases you to consider what I'm going to request to you. We have received explanation from our Sierra this morning regarding the group assignment, which some of the clarifications were not clearly from the beginning. Knowing that majority of us are blended and it's not possible, easy to meet like at once to review and collect the necessary information and adjust our group work assignment. Therefore, if it pleases you, today, based on what you have planned to teach us, maybe if you can adjust the timing so that we can also have some times to meet online for the group work assignment to correct and adjust as per your instructions. Thank you so much.
It pleases me, you will do after my lecture. Don't worry.
But the timing will be over, Doctor, knowing that we are supposed to submit today. In the
Yes,
evening,
it
it's
is
only
today
the timing
before,
that we can meet.
00 hours, I think. So no problem.
Sorry?
At what time do you submit?
We were informed to submit today before 00.
Yes, so you will still have more than 3 hours after my lecture. Don't worry.
Doctor, kindly consider the schedule we have. I
The
understand
consideration
majority.
is taken into account. Someone else who is raising his hand? Have full names. There are people who still do not have full names.
shule imekuwa ngumu sana blaza.
So topic 5. Topic 5, remember topic 1 was about introduction to strategic management. Second topic was an environmental analysis. The third one was on strategy formulation. The fourth one was on strategy implementation. And the last one is topic number 5. Last but one, which is topic number 5, is strategy, evaluation, and control. Sometimes we call it appraisal of business strategies implementation. Strategy, evaluation, and control. In this topic, we are going to have 3 subtopics. Number 1 is strategy appraisal. Strategy appraisal. Strategy appraisal. And the second subtopic will be on approaches to strategy evaluation. Approaches to strategy evaluation. And immediately after this, there will be the timed assignment. So the third one is business strategy. Business strategy, control, business strategy, control. So you better listen to this topic because this is the topic which you really need it to be very practical. And when it comes also to the exam, you find very practical questions. Subtopic number 1 will cover the concept and the importance of strategy appraisal. That is the first subtopic. And second subtopic will be on development of performance indicators. Following is establishing standards. The other one is on performance measurement tools. And the last one is on strategic review and the monitoring processes. Those are the subtopics that we are going to cover. And then the other subtopic is approaches to strategy evaluation. In these approaches to strategy evaluation, we are going to cover subtopics like principles and approaches to strategy evaluation, comparison of Plan D from actual performance, variance and gap analysis, benchmarking, assessment of strategic outcomes, identification of implementation challenges, and the corrective measures. When I teach identification of implementation challenges, I will have already covered topic number 6 that I'm not going to teach. When I teach identification of implementation challenges and the corrective measures, I will have covered also topic number 6 that I'm not going to teach. And then we have the last subtopic, which is business strategy control. In this subtopic, we are going to learn the following. Number 1 is strategic control and the monitoring systems. Second one is implementation control, premise control, strategic surveillance control, feedback and forward control, corrective action processes, development of strategic control frameworks. Actually, here we are going to delve into control. And we have different types of control, like strategic control, implementation control, premise control, strategic surveillance, feedback, and forward control. So these are the subtopics that we are going to cover. So what is the major task that we are going to do here? We would wish a student to develop ability to establish an effective strategic appraisal so that in your office you can do this practically. And also you to be able to evaluate the strategy implementation as well as how you can take effective control when it comes to strategy. So we begin with subtopic number 1, strategy appraisal setup. Strategy appraisal setup. So what do we mean by strategy appraisal? What do we mean by strategy appraisal? Strategy appraisal is one of the components that we usually study in strategic management, and it helps us to know whether the strategies are being implemented effectively and they are producing the desired results. So there are 2 issues that we cover in strategy appraisal. 1, the nature of implementation of the strategy. Are strategies being implemented accordingly? Are they implemented effectively? And number 2, you measure whether those strategies are bringing forth the desired results that were set during the strategy formulation. In fact, you want to measure the degree to which the strategic objectives that are found in the strategic plan are achieved or not, and what kind of adjustments or improvement or adaptability you can take. So you measure the degree to which the objectives are achieved, and if there is a challenge, you make some adjustments. In fact, strategy appraisal helps us to see the progress on the implementation of the strategy. And during the implementation of the strategy, you also identify any challenge that is emerging. So you know the progress of the strategy implementation, and you know whatever challenge that is being faced when implementing the strategy. In fact, the challenges might be not because there is an environment that surrounds the organization, as we learned in topic number 2. And therefore, they can bring a challenge when desired that were expected. So that can cause a challenge. In fact, strategy appraisal is bringing forth the connection, the interlink, the bridge between strategy formulation and the strategy control. Because between strategy formulation and strategy control, there is strategy implementation. So it's all about considering the implementation. So it brings that kind of links. So why do we do strategy appraisal? 1, we evaluate programs. So we are able to know how are we progressing well or not progressing well. Number 2, out of strategy appraisal, we can know the existing strengths or weaknesses or opportunities or challenges in relation to the strategy implementation. Number 3, we are also able to know or to have a timely feedback and then lead us for decision making, which kind of a decision we can make with the progress that we have, doing some adjustments or continue with the way we are. So you can make the right decision. For instance, if you set a budget, you are able to recast or continue with the budget that you have. But also, if there is somebody or there is a particular department or entity or party that is not correctly performing, they can be accountable. So it also promotes accountability, responsibility, and adherence to what is a strategic objective set for. It also supports continuous improvement. Since we know the progress and we know where the weakness is, we are able to do the improvement on time, and also we are able to learn. For instance, if we set the insufficient or inadequate budget, we are able also to learn next time to set the corrective or right budget. So what do we do now when it comes to strategy appraisal? What are the activities that we are going to do so that we can have an effective and efficient strategy appraisal? What are we going to do? What are the activities? What are things that we have to take over in order to note ourselves that we are doing a strategy appraisal? Number 1, you have to do the development of performance indicators, which means you cannot do strategy appraisal if you don't have performance indicators. So one of the major activities that we do when we are doing strategic or strategy appraisal is to develop performance indicators. For those people who have done project management, especially monitoring and evaluation, currently it's known as monitoring, evaluation, learning and accountability, they will understand this very easy. So one of the major activities that we perform, we do when it comes to strategy appraisal is to develop the performance indicators. In other words, you cannot appraise the strategy or strategic objectives if you don't have indicators. And I think you know what indicators in research. In research, you have learned about variables. And in research, you have learned about variables. And you also learned in research what we call operationalization of variables. That means you have a variable, you have to look for its measurement indicator, and then you have to look for its measurement scale, and also you have to identify the source or the citation from which you are taking that particular indicator. So indicators operationalize a variable. So when we talk of performance indicators, we are talking of the metrics that operationalize performance. How can you know that I'm performing or not performing? For instance, I usually give a simple example. Let's say my variable is hunger. How can I know that somebody is hungry? How can I know? Can we contribute? How can you know that somebody is feeling hungry? Somebody is feeling hungry. Maybe we contribute in 2 minutes. My variable is hunger. My variable is hunger. How can I know that someone is hungry? What indicators should I use to know that somebody is hungry? Joseph
Yes,
Mwijage. Joseph Mwijage. I repeat, make sure that you have full names. You have full names on the platform. Don't use their no name. You
Yes,
say
doctor.
Alpha. Yes,
Yes, doctor.
can you speak?
One of is weakness or low energy.
Weakness
How can
or low
weakness be
energy?
weakness or low energy?
How can you measure weakness? I'm looking to the way we can measure the indicators of that measurement.
Weakness
Okay.
that you will see someone
Yes. How
seems
can
like
you know that weakness? I want the indicators of that weakness. Florence Inqueto. Florence Inqueto.
Thank you, sir. Yawning, when somebody's
Yawning.
yawning.
Wow. Yawning. That is one of the indicator that somebody is hungry. God love Matayo. Just mention one indicator.
Yes, sir. I was thinking about the voice, the strength of the voice.
Strength of
High,
the voice. How
low.
can you
Yeah.
measure the strength of the voice? How?
If someone
How?
is speaking, yeah, I think
Think
I was thinking
more.
about their
Think
strength.
more.
Okay,
Think
sure.
more. Hashim Mtayabarua. I don't know. Wow.
Yeah, thank you. So for
Hashim.
me, yes, I will look at stomach growling, like that growling noise that stomach makes when you're hungry. That's another
But if
indicator.
someone also eats, the stomach also may be roaring. I want a clear indicator. For instance, yawning is a very clear indicator for dozing or hungry. Mustafa A. Mpwisa. Mustafa A. Mpwisa.
A person will have a low energy, low energy.
How can you measure low energy? How? What is
Like
low?
like
I wish
he
you use your research knowledge. I think you are taught in the research, operationalization of variables, types of variables, measurement scale, measurement indicators. Be very clear. Obedi Joseph. Joseph.
Leo siko sawa.
Yes, doctor. What I see when somebody is hunger, the issue to see is the feeling he
Kwa nini
feel
umekataa jamani
tired
kuni
or lack
hotspot?
of energy.
Hmm?
If
Sweet mother.
somebody feeling weak,
Nataka
it's an indicator
hotspot.
that you can see this body is
How
hunger.
can you measure that somebody is weak?
By looking
How?
him, he can be
Yes,
looked tired.
how? Now look at him. What makes him?
You see,
Tiredness?
you see we see low energy.
Okay. Sajida Salehe. Sajida Salehe. Sajida?
Ella, for
Yes.
me, I think when I'm angry, I sweat a lot. So I don't know if
Sweating. Wow. Sweating is directly indicated. Sweating. Yes. We have somebody, Grace Ronald.
Hello,
Yes.
I hear my name, Regina. If somebody is hungry, he may fetch for food.
Yes.
He may fetch for
Search
food
for
if it,
food. Search
yes.
for food is an action. We are looking on the condition, situation.
Okay.
Somebody
Okay. If it's a child who will start to cry,
is angry. How can you know that somebody? Pauline John? Pauline John? One we said yawning, the other one is sweating. Somebody also may be vomiting, stomach ache, headache, and so forth, and so forth. So we are saying one of the ways you can do strategy appraisal is to set the indicators. So what do we mean by performance indicators? Here we are talking of measurable metrics that can help you now to measure whether you are progressing well or not progressing well, depending on the objectives you had before, or you had it during strategy formulation. So normally, if we want to know whether we are having the required performance or not out of the strategy formulated, then we can acquire that feedback, that objective information from develop the performance indicators. So in fact here, performance indicators help you to know whether you are having desired outcomes, desired results, or not having desired results. In fact, the process of developing performance indicators usually require the proper understanding of the organization direction. So one of the conditions that enables you to develop the right performance indicators is to onset your indicators on the organization direction. And if you remember from day one or from topic number one, I told you our organization direction is realized in terms of vision, mission, goals, objectives, as well as the principles or core values of the organization. So one of the foundations or pillars that we can use to develop our performance indicator is the organization direction. In fact, there are different stages.
Hello? Hello?
That we go through when setting or when if.
Sasa nikuja kufanya huduma hapo kama wiki mbili nyuma.
Let somebody not disturb us. We better maintain peace and calmness in our lecture. So the first stage that you go through when developing these indicators is setting or referring back to the set direction of the organization. I want to insist something. If you are not studying, don't join us. Don't join us while you are doing other business. You can join us. If you are doing other business, don't join us and don't disturb others. Manage your platform. So that is the first stage. The second stage is also determining the critical success factors. So when developing performance indicator, one, found your indicators on the set direction of the organization. Number two, set your indicators on what we call critical success factors. Critical success factors. So here we normally talk of those factors which influence the achievement of the organization. And why those factors? Remember, any performance occurs by being influenced by different factors. Stage number three, you now establish the indicators because you know the direction, you have the critical success factors, and now you set or develop the indicators. And these indicators must have the quality to measure the performance. So how can I know that this can measure the performance. So there are different characteristics that we can rely on whether they measure or they are able to measure performance objectively, scientifically, systematically, or not. Number one, they should be directly linked to strategic objectives. And remember, these strategic objectives are the major areas that we usually rely on when setting objectives, when setting, strategies in the strategic plan. For instance, in the public sector in Tanzania, there are known national strategic objectives to whatever department, ministry, or agency that write the strategic plan. That is corruption. And number two is the issue about gender and HIV. Those are always common when it comes to any strategic plan of any institution, any department, any ministry, or any agency of the public sector. I don't know about the private sector. So number one, you should link it to the strategic objectives that are resulting from the direction set by the organization. Another characteristics, they must be measurable and quantifiable. They must be measurable and quantifiable. I think in research, you remember that there are two types of variables according to their nature. There are two types of variables according to their nature. What are they in research? What are those types of variables in research according to their nature? Yes?
Independent
variable.
Independent variable. Yes, doctor. The variables are independent. Yes, independent variable and dependent variable.
Have you listened well my question?
Yes, you were asked about the type of variables in research.
No, I was asking about types of variables according to their nature.
Okay.
When you read my question in the exam, read it 26 times. So to when I ask you a question, Adeline Gumbua, what are the types of variables in research according to their nature? Yes, Asia Ibrahim Suya. Asia
Thank you, Doctor.
Ibrahim, yes.
And there are two types, which is qualitative and quantitative.
Oh. Okay, maybe we start somewhere. How many criteria do we use to classify variables? How many criteria we use to classify variables in research? Asia? How many variables? How many criteria do we use to classify variables in research? Because if you don't know the criteria that we use to classify variables, automatically you can't understand the types of variables. Shadrach Mlomo. Shadrach Mlomo. Shadrach Mlomo, you have raised your hand and then you are still muted. Shadrach Mlomo, speak. Abubakar Ismail, what are the types of variables according to their nature? Their nature. Mawasiliano S. Deule. Mawasiliano S. Deule. Why should you raise your hand and then you don't speak? Mawasiliano S. Deule, what are the types of variables according to their nature? Joseph Mwijage?
Yes, doctor. Let me try. There is quantitative and qualitative, categorical or numerical.
Yes. There are different
Hello?
types of variables. There are different types of variables in research according to the nature of a variable. And these are two: numerical, they are called the continuous variable or non-continuous variable. The other name of a continuous variable is also called the numeric variable. It's called the numeric variable. And the second type is called the categorical variable, non-metric variable. So we have metric variable and the non-metric variable. For instance, weight is a metric variable, it's a continuous variable. Temperature is a metric or continuous variable. Age is a continuous variable. Income is the continuous variable. However, satisfaction is a non-metric variable. It is actually a categorical variable. Hunger, anger, those are non-numeric or non-metric or categorical variables. But if you talk of independent and dependent variable, those are types of variable according to their purpose, according to their role, according to their explanation. Which one explain the other? So you can say independent variable and dependent variable. And actually, dependent and independent variable is the babyish language. Is actually embryonic language. We use that language for basic people like secondary school or even primary or secondary. But for you who are grown up, you can just say a predictor and a criterion variable. So there are different types of variables according to the role they play. We have intervening, mediating, moderating, confounding variables. Anyway, I have just erased this marker so that we are able to know what I want to speak. So they should be measurable and quantifiable. Even if they are categorical variables, you must make them quantifiable. For instance, most of the categorical variables are not quantifiable, but Professor Lickett has come with a solution on how we can quantify the categorical variables. And that's why we usually use what we call Likert scales. So you do the operationalization and you are able also to use the Likert scales. Performance indicator must be also timely and must provide timely information and reliable information. At the beginning, I said we usually track progress. And if there is a challenge, we can do the improvement, we can do the adjustment. So they must be always updated so that they make us doing the right decision. Just to remind you, when I was starting teaching strategic management, I told you we have two words. We have strategic and management. And I told you in management, in order for you to define management correctly, you need to consider 7 or 6 activities. Number 1 is planning. Number 2 is organizing. Number 3 is Number 1 is planning. Number 2 is organizing. Number 3 is directing or leading. Number 4 is staffing. Number 5 is coordinating. Number 6 is controlling. And the last one is decision making. That defines management. That's why here we have decision making in number 3. Number 4, performance indicators are also characterized by being understandable and meaningful. That's why some of the indicators that you were mentioning regarding being hungry were not understandable, were not clearly understood. So they must be understandable and meaningful, especially to those who are looking for results. Remember, in project management, particularly in monitoring and evaluation, and as well in strategic management, when we talk of results, we are referring to 3 categories. One is output, an immediate result. The following one is immediate result, known as outcome. And the last one is the long-term result, known as impact. So in strategic management or project management, particularly monitoring and evaluation, when you talk of results, you are talking of output, outcome, as well as impact. Performance indicator is also characterized by continuity, and the focus. Remember, when we do the strategy appraisal, we realize the performance, the progress, and where we can do the improvement. We learn something. Therefore, it is always a cycle, a continuous process. There are very good examples of performance indicators in business organization, and according to Balanced Scorecard by Kaplan and Norton 1996, can be profitability, market share, customer satisfaction, employee productivity, innovation rates, operational efficiency, customer retention, and so forth. So these are some of the indicators that can help, or some of the variables that can help us to measure a particular performance. Now I have the indicators. So the first activity when doing strategy appraisal is to develop the indicators known as performance indicators. Second activity is to establish what we call appraisal criteria and standards. Establishing appraisal criteria and standards. So for a strategy appraisal to be effective, we need not only performance indicators, but also we need appraisal criteria and standards. So what do we mean by appraisal criteria? What do we mean by appraisal standards? Appraisal criteria are the measures or dimensions we use to assess performance. I'll give you later on the examples. So those dimensions, those components, those elements, those parameters that we consider, those constructs that we take into account when we want to do the strategy appraisal is what we call appraisal criteria. Hunger, then I say yawning, dizziness, stomachache, headaches. What are the measures? What are the dimensions? What are the elements? What are the parameters? What are the colors when we want to paint the house? is what we call appraisal criteria. While the standards now are the degrees, the extent, the levels of achievement using the indicators given as well as the criteria given. So such levels, such degree, such extent being achieved based on the set performance indicators as well as criteria set is what we call standards. 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 So why these? Why appraisal criteria? Why appraisal criteria? We use the appraisal criteria so that we know whether we are based on the strategic objectives, strategic priorities that we set or not during strategy formulation. Remember, during strategy formulation, we set what we call priorities or strategic objectives. How can we measure whether we are not out or we are not out, but we are in? We use what we call appraisal criteria. Appraisal criteria. Appraisal criteria. And then, how can we know also that to what extent we have achieved? Then we use now what we call appraisal standards. So what are the characteristics of both, or sometimes even the standards, because it is the high level? Both of them should be specific and clearly defined. That means if they are specific, they will base on a particular strategic priority, strategic objective, and even the set standards during the strategic formulation. But also they must be realistic. That means they must be according to the environment. They must be according to the capabilities and resources of the organization. Although some challenges might be there, by remembering that the organization is not always is operating in a dynamic environment, but they must be realistic. They must also be aligned to the set direction of the organization. They should not be against the set direction of the organization, whether goals or objectives. But also they must be measurable and verifiable. That means performance indicators. We go back here to the characteristics that I have just aforementioned regarding performance indicators. But also they must be adaptive. They must be adaptive. That means they must be flexible to the changing environment, whether external or internal environment of the organization. And actually, these feed you the bread and the sweetest tea of second topic. Perhaps we see some examples of three things that I have just covered. Let's see some examples. I have tried to look for this example, and these are the examples that I also bring to you to the exam. I can bring a table like this one to you in the exam. Then I can put a strategic objective. Then I ask you to look for appraisal criterion or performance indicator or appraise. Or I can put appraisal standard here. Then I ask you to fill this one, to fill this one, to fill this one. So be attentive to this example. If the strategic objective or priority of the organization was to improve student satisfaction, and actually this is an example of IIA. So in the strategic plan of IIA, there is improving student satisfaction. So appraisal criterion, how can I know what would be the criteria to know that there is improved student satisfaction? It will be the quality of academic services. The quality of academic services. The performance indicator can be in terms of the rates, and this rate can be in terms of performance. Remember, in strategic management, when we talk of indicator, we talk both of the indicator and the measurement scale. So to standard. Different from research, when you speak of the indicator, different from the measurement scale. Achieve at least 85%, but in the particular time. You even give the particular time. So these are the examples of appraisal criterion, performance indicator, as well as appraisal standard. So the first activity when doing strategy appraisal is to develop performance indicator. The second activity is to develop what we call appraisal standards, appraisal criterion. The third one now is to develop what we call performance measurement tool. The third activity in strategy appraisal is to establish what we call performance measurement tool. Here we are talking of the mechanisms. We are talking of the frameworks. We are talking of the models. We are talking of the key tenets that we took into account to acquire information for appraisal. Remember, there is a difference between information and the data in research, and so to results and the findings. I think you are taught in the research the difference between data and information, and also in marketing management. But also there is also the difference in research between results and the findings. So when we collecting data, and then we clean data. Then we process data by doing two things. One, we can do the manipulation. We can do also the analysis of the data. Having analyzed the data, we get results. When we interpret those results and discuss them, then we get information. And this information are the ones that are used to make different decisions in the organization. So performance measurement tools now are those mechanisms that can help us to collect data, to analyze data, and interpret data, analyze the data to acquire information for decision making. In fact, when we have this information, they will help us now to monitor progress and identify the areas that need improvement. They help us to, out of this information that we have collected, analyzed, and interpreted, we acquire information that can make us a decision. And there are two decisions: monitoring the progress, and number two, doing improvement if any challenge. So what are these tools? The first tool that we need is key performance indicators. And here we are talking of specific measures that can help us now to measure the performance that we foresight during strategy formulation. So they are specific measures that we can use to measure the expected performance. Remember, when we talk of organizational performance, it is usually generated from employee performance. Benchmarking is also another tool or another mechanism we can use to measure the performance. So another tool that we use is benchmarking. So what do we mean by benchmarking? Benchmarking in simple terms refer to comparing. So what are we doing in strategic management? We compare the organization performance against another organization which is doing the best in the industry, or another competitor, or even another organization which is doing the best in the industry. For instance, when you come to soft drinks, Coca-Cola Corporation is usually termed as doing the best in the industry. In Tanzania, when you come to the banking industry in those days back, CRDB was renowned by doing the best in the banking industry. When you come to the world, Harvard University School of Business is doing the best in the world. When you come to Oxford University, is doing the best in a particular area. Johnson & Johnson are doing the best when it comes to vaccination. When you come to the airline service in Africa, Ethiopian Lines is doing the best. Ethiopian Lines is doing the best. I don't know about KU, I don't know the other airlines. But when you come to the world, perhaps Emirates is doing the best. I'm not sure. When you come to the traveling by bus from Dodoma to Dar es Salaam, Shabib seems to be doing the best. And when you are traveling to Mwanza, perhaps Haliz or Nyayunge, I don't know, Nyayunge, I don't know whether I have pronounced the name, might be doing the best. Nyahunge. Perhaps when you come to Arusha to Dar es Salaam, Tahimid is doing the best. Or Nairobi to Dar es Salaam, perhaps Tahimid is doing the best. When you come to the traveling ocean service, perhaps from Dar es Salaam to Zanzibar, Unguja, perhaps Azam Marine Service is doing the best. I don't know who is doing the best when it comes to teaching and learning, when it comes to the institute like ours compared to the others. So we usually learn from the others. That is benchmarking.
I'm doing the best.
Performance dashboard is also another tool. So what do we mean by performance dashboard? Here, you are talking of data. Here, you are talking of the presentation of the data. So this is one of the tools that we use to present the data. But remember, these data are about the strategy appraisal. And you simplify the presentation of this data by doing visual presentation. It can be in terms of graphs, charts, whether histograms, chart, any kind of charts, in descriptive, statistics, get me pie charts or whatever. So here you present your data using the visual format. You can use the branches tree or the tree-like to present your data, and they get understood quickly than you could use the text. You can even tabulate your data, tabulation, using the tables and so forth. So why should we talk it as one of the tool? Because here we want to present the data. Sometimes ITV during the 20 hours news can use this one to present. They can use the visual presentation. Sijui ndio hapana. Sometimes when we are doing the presentation of financial information, if there is a very simple visual way we can, so that we show the performance. If you have your balance sheet, you have your cash flow, or whatever kind of financial statement, you can use visual format so that you simplify the understanding of your progress or performance. Another tool that we use is management by objectives. Here, you check the agreed objectives, strategic objectives vis-a-vis the performance out of the agreed objectives. Remember, during strategy formulation, you came up with different strategic objectives. They were agreed, they were approved. And now, management by objectives now, you check the objective vis-a-vis the performance against that objective. Maybe I talk by giving an example from the public sector in Tanzania with reference to human resource management in the topic known as performance management or sometimes employee appraisal. For the past 10 years, I have been also wondering, and I have been sometimes closing my eyes when it comes to the choice or selection of the best worker in the public sector. Imagine we had the operas in Tanzania. Later on, we had the PEPMIS, and currently we are going on with PEPMIS. When we fill our PEPMIS, we set the objectives. So I expect at the end of the year, approaching to the first day of May, the Workers' Day, I expect that we can get the best worker out of the achievement of the objectives, the scores obtained in the PEPMIS. Bad enough, in some organization of the public sector, we get the best worker by voting. Is that the right way?
No.
Maybe we do some discussion. We feel PEPMIS. So I expected the employee who led in the percentage in the PEPMIS is the one to be the best worker. But what happens, people sit down and then they vote. So sometimes they agree. This year, Manganga Tech, next year, Muluku Tech, next year, Kiatu Tech. Is that the best performer? Is that the best worker? Maybe in 2 minutes, we do the discussion. Philbert Marco, what do you say on that?
On that, I can say that the performance cannot measure by voting. It's supposed to measure by analyze or assessment.
Oh, wow. So you don't agree. Dr. E. Kosoka, what do you say on this? Agara is a bit far. Agnes Aribogast, what is your reaction on this? Agnes Arbogast. Raheli Nkwema. What is your reaction on this? Hussein Juma?
Thank you, Doctor. My reaction is that I think we are not using PEPMIS as one of the criteria to have the best employee of the year or of an organization. The reason being is that in PEPMIS, some criteria are not vividly proved or seen. For example, the other criteria that are used to have the best employee is the attitude of a candidate or an employee, the behavior of an employee, and perhaps how an employee is able to actually help other employees to perform their activities within an organization. So such criteria are never seen in a PEPMIS. That's why it can never be used as a criteria to measure the performance of an employee. Thank you, Doctor.
Remember, forget about the attitude. Attitude was actually full in during appraisal. I mean, during operas. But remember, when you fill PEPMIS, you fill the objectives you want to achieve at the end of the year. Why can't we calculate now the percentage achieved for each objective, for each task, and even subtasks in May? Maybe I leave this question to you and continue to do the brainstorming, but I just wanted you to know what we call management by objective. Now, the best tool that the world believes is correct to measure the performance is known as balanced scorecard. Balanced scorecard. Why balance the scorecard as one of the best tools is because balance the scorecard consider both financial performance of the organization as well as non-financial performance of the organization. So balance the scorecard is termed as the best tool because when it measures performance, it takes both consideration of financial performance as well as non-financial performance. So it even goes to the level of qualitative and quantitative performance of the organization. So one of the very good strategic performance tool or framework is balance the scorecard because it is able to measure both financial and non-financial performance. It views performance using 4 perspectives. Number 1 is financial perspective, for instance, profitability, revenue growth, return on investment, cost efficiency. I think you have learned the profitability in accounts and finance, revenue growth in accounts and finance, return on investment. This word is pronounced the return, not a return. This word, it is pronounced return, therefore return on investment. Cost efficiency, I think you have learned the cost efficiency in managerial economics. The second one is, the second perspective of balance the scorecard is customer perspective, and most of the private sectors usually use this one. So what is customer? Here you measure performance from the customer point of view. So it is customer centric. So you measure how customers perceive your organization. So you can check on indicators such as customer satisfaction or variables such as customer satisfaction, customer retention, customer loyalty, market share, and so forth. And remember, even customer quality, you can use different model here like Kano model. That is also very common in production and operation management, Sevico model, Tri model, and other models that you know. Another perspective from balanced scorecard is the internal business processes perspective. Here, you check the internal performance by considering the effectiveness and the efficiency of internal processes. Currently, we have an assignment of reviewing some business processes of a particular institute. We are checking on the effectiveness and the efficiency of those processes in a particular organization and how they can be improved. So here you check how effective, how efficient are you so that you created the value to the customers. But balance this scorecard take into consideration on that. But balance the scorecard also believe that out of any performance, there is something to learn, there is somewhere also to improve. Therefore, it has also the aspect of assessing the organization ability to innovate, to improve, and develop capabilities. So sometimes you don't only check on financial performance, but also you check also on the non-financial performance. For instance, how many trainings have you done and what was the results of those trainings? What was the difference of performance before you take employee to training and after taking an employee to training? Remember, employee training belongs to human resource management in the branch or in the topic known as training and development. So that is another framework, another tool for performance. The fifth activity of strategy appraisal is strategic review and monitoring processes. Remember, I said five activities that are considered when it comes to strategy appraisal. The first one, I think you remember the first one is, the first activity is establishing the performance indicators. The second one is appraisal criteria and the standards that you consider. And the third one is identifying the measurement tools such as key performance indicator, benchmarking, performance dashboards, management by objective, as well as the balanced scorecard, which seems to be the best. Now, the last, if not the last activity when it comes to strategy appraisal is reviewing and monitoring processes. Strategy appraisal, remember, is not an event, it's the process. And this process always evolves. It is a continuous process. It's not just a one-time activity, but it is always a continuous process. And therefore, because strategy appraisal is not an event, is not a one-time activity, we need another activity known as strategic review and monitoring processes. So what do we mean by strategic review and monitoring? What do we mean? Here, you continue to monitor the progress. You continue to monitor, to make a follow-up on the progress of all the business processes, and then you review whether you are doing best or you are doing what? Wrong, but in alignment, in matching with the set direction of the organization in terms of strategic objectives, in terms of strategic priorities. So here, you pick up your performance or progress vis-a-vis the set direction of the organization, and what are the issues now that are emerging out of that progress. Therefore, here you measure the alignment of your performance with the strategic objectives and priorities, but also you also identify the emerging issues which are endangering the performance in alignment with the strategic objectives. So there are different stages, or there are different activities that when we do this, we now know that we have performed the strategic review. Don't worry about whoever who make noise. Don't worry about him or her. There is a solution. So strategic review includes some stages, includes some activities. When we do these activities, they will help us to know that we are now doing strategic review. Number one is to establish performance expectation. Here, you talk of defining standards, defining targets, defining performance benchmarks. For instance, by June 2026, I will have, or the organization will have raised the enrollment by 20%. So 20% is our target. So we can able to set standards of achieving that 20%. And that means when we achieve that benchmark of 20%, wow, we shall have performed it. And actually that 20% might be drawn from somewhere, from a university, from an organization, which is actually always performing best when it comes to enrollment. Another activity is measuring the actual performance. Here, you collect data, and this data now will help you to measure the actual performance. So here, you measure the performance through the data to be collected by determining the actual results you have achieved. You planned it 20%, the actual might be 13% out of 20. So you measure the actual performance out of what we call performance expectation. So you need first the expectation 20%, the actual performance might be 13%. And then after achieving that 13%, you might be blaming yourself as an organization that you have done bad or you have done well. I remember I participated in one project during big results now in Tanzania. There is one organization, I was the youngest consultant by then, and one organization involved me in measuring the results during big results now. I don't know whether you remember big results now. Now, during big results now in Tanzania, some of organizations were setting the targets below standard. That when we come to measure the results, we find they have gone beyond. They have gone beyond. So I questioned a lot because there were some organizations that were supposed to collect more than 100 billion a year as a revenue. They set the standard of collecting, the target of collecting 20 billion, while actually their capability was to collect maybe 200 billion a year. And then when they surpassed, they found themselves that they were the best, and they were even appraised in the public that they have performed well, while actually they have set below standard. You also analyze the variances. Here, you analyze the deviation. You analyze the deviation. I think you know deviation in standard, in the descriptive statistics. So here, you look for the variances. What is the difference What is the difference? And what were the causes of the deviation? And which action can you really take? Another stage also, you implement now the corrective measures. Remember, the corrective measures are identified in the analyzing variance, and then now you come to implement such corrective measures. And then now you continue to monitor. That means you continue doing the progress appraisal so that you are able to know what is going on, the feedback, and what are actually learning from that, progress. This makes the end of subtopic number 1. To remind you, we are learning about topic 5. The name of topic 5 is Appraise Business Strategy Implementation or Strategy Evaluation and Control. To remind you from far, we have 5 topics in strategic management. The first one is Introduction to Strategic Management. The second one is environmental analysis. The third one is strategy formulation. The fourth one is strategy implementation. And now we are talking about topic 5, which is strategy evaluation and control. Now it has 3 subtopics. The first one is strategy appraisal. The second one is approaches to strategy evaluation. And the third one is business strategy control. Remember, I have covered already the activities that are conducted so that you say you have done strategy appraisal setup. That is developing performance indicator, establishing appraisal criteria and standard, establishing performance measurement tool, including balanced scorecard, and the last activity that makes you have done strategy appraisal is strategic review and monitoring processes. For an intelligent student like you, if you don't remember the definition of strategy appraisal you can say strategy appraisal refers to activities such as developing performance indicator, establishing appraisal criteria, standards, performance measurement tool, reviewing strategic processes and monitoring processes for an intelligent student. So we go to subtopic number 2, that is approaches to strategy evaluation. So what are these approaches? So we are going to see different approaches. So what are these approaches? What are these approaches? So we are going to look on the approaches to strategy evaluation by checking on subtopics such as principles and the approaches to strategy evaluation, comparison of our planned and actual performance, variance and gap analysis, benchmarking, assessment of strategic outcomes, identification of implementation challenges, and the corrective measures. When you cover these activities, you will have done approaches to strategy implementation. And because I have done subtopic number 1, this subtopic number 2 will be very, very simple. In 10 minutes, we break and let us meet by 1910. Let's meet by 1910 before we go to subtopic number 2. So you have 10 minutes, take a cup of tea, a bottle of soda, a glass of juice, a glass of water, and then we meet by 1910. Thank you very much.
Hivi mbona watu wametulia sana? Mpo kweli?
Kipewa muda wa kutulia tulia na wewe.
Tuko break mkuu.
Tunaogopa kuwasha.
itakulamba.
Fanya kahawa kwanza.
Kunywa chai.
Upo kuwasha mic afu
Jamani, editini hayo majina yenu ya simu, shauri yenu. Leo amesisitiza sana huyu bwana.
Na niwaambie awamu ijayo kama watu watakuwa hawajaweka majina vizuri, mtaiona. Kwa mfano wewe anaitwa Crack Jump huyu.
Labda ndo jina lake.
Haiwezekani. Rekebisheni majina.
Huyu Galaxy Jump si ndo nani sijui.
Kama uwezi kuedit is better ukaask. Manake baadaye ya kuliana.
Phoenix.
Kunyweni soda, muongeze sukari.
Hivyo timu jamani, hii issue ya kazi yake ya kutuma na passport size na kurekodi ndio imesimama hivyo hivyo ama kuna mabadiliko mengine mshikaji? Maana nashinda kuielewa kabisa. Wengine mmefanyaje? Mshatuma na kutuma rekodi na nini?
Bro, do it offline, bro. Bro, do it offline.
Mtafute Siala. Halo?
Halo?
Hebu tulieni basi, dakika 10 zishafika, mwalimu ataingia, dokta ataingia sasa hivi.
Kwani unataka
Watu wanamtafuta medicine.
iPhone ulipotea?
Did you enjoy your glass of water or whatever that you have taken? Now we proceed to subtopic number 2. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Okay.
We are
Approaches
following.
sir.
We are
to
following.
strategy evaluation. So as we proceed, mute your mic, but also have full names. Have full names that are official. Not EF, advocate, doctor, no. Have full names. So what do we mean by strategy evaluation? What do we mean by strategy evaluation? Here is the process of determining whether the organization strategy are delivering the intended results and contributing to the achievement of organizational goals and objectives. So if I want to measure whether we are achieving what we wanted to achieve, the results is what we call strategy evaluation. Strategy evaluation. And out of strategy evaluation, we obtain valuable feedback. Remember, when you talk of evaluation, you are talking of understanding the effectiveness of the strategy, the efficiency of the strategy, the impact of the strategy, the information that can help you to note whether your strategy is sustainable or not sustainable. So here, strategy evaluation give you the feedback, but not just a feedback, but a precious, a flowering, a scoldy, or a valuable feedback. And when you want to make now any decision, you are able to make the right decision because you know how effective are you, efficient are you, or performance level you have. In fact, for you to learn the reality during performance, you need strategy evaluation. For you to adapt and become flexible to the changing environment, you need strategy evaluation. For you to do improvement continuously, you need this feedback from strategy evaluation. So what are the principles? What are the principles? What are the approaches that you can use to do strategy evaluation in understanding understanding the results you wanted to achieve? So there are different principles. There are different principles that guide strategy evaluation. And in most cases, here, these principles and approaches or frameworks help you to acquire the right information for the right decision-making, learning, and continuous improvement. Out of these approaches during strategy evaluation, you get the relevant, the accurate, the useful, the objective, the systematic, the timely, and the information that are aligned to the strategic objectives and priority of the organization. In fact, let me repeat. These principles and approaches of strategy evaluation helps you to get the right information. What do we mean by the right information? We mean the relevant information for decision making. accurate information for decision making, the useful information for decision making, the objective information for decision making, the scientific or systematic information for decision making, the timely, updated, according to the current environment information for decision making. You also get the information that are aligned, that merge with the strategic objective or strategic priority that were set during strategy formulation. In fact, you are able to have the information on the side of financial as well as non-financial dimension. So it even take into account the perspectives of balanced scorecard. So what are these approaches? What are these approaches? The first one is the goal-based approach. The goal-based approach. The goal-based approach. So what is this approach about? What is this approach about? This approach, usually when doing evaluation, helps you to measure the degree, the extent, the extent to which the set strategic objectives during strategy formulation are achieved. So if you want to know that degree, you use the approach known as goal-based approach. Here, you compare the targets, the expected results vis-a-vis the actual outcomes. So the expected vis-a-vis the actual. The expected performance vis-a-vis the performed performance. The second approach is known as resource-based approach. For the person who is doing management like you, must know what we call resource-based theory or resource-based approach. And for the person who is also doing project management, must also know what we call resource-based approach. In the organization, we have resources, human resources, financial resources, physical resources, technological resources, as well as time as a resource. When we implement any strategic objective or any activity related to strategic objectives operationalization, we use resources. We use resources. Now, if we plant the 1 bottle of water for 7 trees, we expect that will be 1 bottle for 7 trees. But also find the outcome resulting from the 7 trees. For instance, in education institutions or higher learning institutions, you can have 20 teachers, yet they don't achieve. So sometimes the number doesn't matter. It matters the output, the outcome, the impact. The employees who stay throughout the day in the office, when it comes to the evening and ask them what they have done nothing. They have been watching the video. They have been following TikTok. So they have just warmed their chairs in the office. That's why sometimes I talk to human resource directors and I ask them, don't tell them to come to the office, but tell them to bring the output, to give the deliverables. They can stay in the office for 5 hours, for 8 hours a day, yet the results are not there. But you can have one person in the office spending only two hours. But with that time resource, you get a lot of results and quality results. So when we talk of resource-based approach, here we want to see the effectiveness of the resources or capabilities that we use to create the uniqueness, the competitive advantage, the value in the market. So here, when doing strategy evaluation, you evaluate how effectively an organization utilizes its resources and capabilities to create and sustain competitive advantage. There is a project that we want to kick off. There are different organizations which they have used their vehicles, and their vehicles are just parked there. They are rotten off and they are parked there. Because of poor policies, those vehicles will remain there for some years till it comes to the auction market. Sorry. Something which is bad. How long that vehicle will stay there? You just visit your office. There are some vehicles which are just parked there because they are rotten off. Why don't we sell the moment their time is out for use? And then we save the value. I leave this question to you today. There are people who stay with partners, who stay with closest friends, and these friends are not useful to them. Why should you continue to stay with that friend? How can you stay with a friend who usually take you to drink instead of taking you to do investment, to do saving, to do what budgeting? How can you stay with the closest person who is never beneficial, but always chaos, conflicts, and troubles to you? You have a single resource, it brings useful results, rather than having resources that are not effective. So when we evaluate the effectiveness of such resources, we call it, we are following the approach known as resource-based approach. A very good example, there are people who join the Zoom link, this class run by CRIN, yet they are not concentrating. They are using their bundles. They are using their internet bundles or MBs, but they are not following up. They are calling, they are doing calls, they are working. Why should you join to this class for the purpose of being seen that you have joined? You are wasting resources. According to economics, resources are always scarce. Why should you waste your internet to join the class that you are not following up? Sometimes there are also people who just go for the exam for the purpose of doing the exam. If you see yourself you are not prepared, why should you go to that exam? Why should you waste time? There are also people who appeal because it is their right to appeal. They know the way they have done their exam, yet they do appeal. Why should you appeal while you know the way you have done the exam? Why should you waste the resources? There are people who are married. Then they look for other marriages. Why should you waste your resources while even the core one is not enough? I'm just alerting on the resource-based approach. I'm not the judge nor condemning someone, but I'm the voice who brings the light in the darkness, just precautioning. Another approach is the stakeholders approach for people who do project management, strategic management, or monitoring and evaluation, know about stakeholders theory or stakeholders approach. Remember, any business organization has stakeholders, external stakeholders, internal stakeholders. And these external and internal stakeholders always have some expectations, have some needs, have some wants towards or from that business organization. So stakeholders approach help us to do evaluation. Evaluation on what? On the level of performance of an organization according to the expectation, according to the needs, according to the wants, according to the desire of the stakeholders, whether external or internal stakeholders. These stakeholders can be customers, employees, buyers, the wider community. So when we want to know whether they are satisfied or not satisfied, we can use stakeholders approach. So if you want to evaluate now the strategy, you can also evaluate from an eye of stakeholders, their satisfaction. Another approach is balance this scorecard that I have already hinted before. Another activity that we consider when it comes to strategy evaluation is comparison of planned and actual performance. Here you compare what was the target vis-a-vis what is performed. This is very simple. Here you compare what you planned to achieve and what you are actually performing during implementation. When we talk of planned performance, we are referring to the set targets, the set objectives, the set expected outcome during strategy formulation. While the actual performance is talking about the reality, the real results that we now get during the implementation. So when you compare now the two, you call it planned and actual performance. In fact, before you do this kind of performance, you need what we call performance indicators. You need the standards. You need the criteria that I have already clothed beautifully for the wording to you earlier. So we normally have, because we are comparing the actual vis-a-vis the planned, the actual can meet or exceed or below. It can be below or meet the planned or exceed the planned. Now, when it happens that our actual results meet or exceed the planned target, objectives, expectation, now managers become confident, become brilliant, become good performer. There is a very good example here in Tanzania. I remember we had this NHC. It was going to fall down. It was going to fall apart. But there is one guy, such a skillful and intelligent, a born for success guy, one son from one family, Actually, that is Nehemiah Mchechu. And the womb that bears Nehemiah Mchechu is actually blessed. When Nehemiah Mchechu took over to NHC, the NHC that was to fall down was now meeting its planned expectation, and it was even exceeding. In Tanzania, for the first time by then, we started singing songs, sweetest songs, beautiful songs, heaven songs, on what we call star cities, light cities. We had not that song before. It is because of one son from a blessed womb of one woman, from one man, from the seed of one man, known as Mchechu, out of his son Nehemiah. And I like because when I compared the name of Nehemiah in the Bible and what Nehemiah Mchechu did in Tanzania, wow, it was really the Nehemiah of the Bible. So out of that, the managers of NHC and the public at large were now confident because NHC by then was performing. We had light cities. On the other hand, when the actual performance falls short of expectation, managers become worrying, become weak. And even recently, we have heard also the performance out of the Auditor General, that most of the public entities were falling short of their expectations, financially and non-financially. Another key concept or key term that is very important when it comes to strategy evaluation is variance and the gap analysis. Anyway, I have forgotten also the performance of Anthony Mtaka when he was brought to the desert and he declared that there is even water and green pastures in the desert. That is Dodoma. So those two guys in Tanzania are very strategic, including also another person known as Gileadi, who is actually there before in TICT, and the late Mafuru. Variance and gap analysis. Variance analysis and gap analysis are important tools also that we normally consider when we are doing strategy evaluation. So when you talk of variance, you are talking of a difference. And I think you remember this when it comes to descriptive statistics. In research, in mathematics, let me remind you the song that we have what we call statistics, and there are two types of statistics. We have what we call descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. Descriptive statistics are divided into three categories. We have basic or simple descriptive statistics in terms of frequencies and percentages. Second category of descriptive statistics is measures of centrality, including median, mode, and mean. And the third and the last category of descriptive statistics is what we call measures of dispersion, including standard deviation, variance, kurtosis analysis, skewness, think range, it depends. So in statistics, when you talk of variance, in simple terms, you are talking of the difference. But also when we come to strategic management, when we talk of variance here, we are talking of differences, but being able to establish that degree of difference. And when we talk of a gap, we are also talking of a difference. But it is something that is not addressed. It is a difference that needs a tackling, that needs an action. And I think you remember also what we call gap analysis in research. And I believe you have studied different types of research gaps, like methodological research gap, theoretical research gap, wow, practical research gap, population, space, temporal research gap. I think you have studied even more than 10 types of research gaps. If you don't know them, you can visit CRN Competence Corner, a YouTube channel, and you are able to note different types of research gaps. So what is variance analysis? Variance analysis, remember we are learning about strategy evaluation. And if we are studying about strategy evaluation, one of the things that we have to evaluate is variance analysis. In other words, one of the things that we have to identify and measure in strategy evaluation is variance. This means identifying and measuring deviations. Deviations between what? Differences between what? Planned target and the actual result. So here you are looking the difference between what was the target and then what is being implemented. Now remember, there might be positive variance, negative variance. If we are comparing the target vis-a-vis the planned, that means there is positive variance as well as negative variance or neutral variance, or sometimes we call it meeting variance. Positive variance is when you meet or you exceed expectation. The target, the actual performance is higher than the target. And the vice versa is true. The vice versa is true that if you fall short of the target in performance, like you had some organization, some public entities during the audit control, then you call it negative variance. But if you meet exactly, you can also say positive, but remember, if you are likely to be there, you can decide to call it a neutral or no alignment variance. So why should we learn about variance analysis? Why should we study about variance analysis? It helps us to know the areas of strong performance, the areas of weak performance. But if I know the weak area, automatically I will set forward strategies for corrective intervention or for corrective action. But also, they help us to determine whether the deviations are temporary fluctuations or indicators of significant strategic problems. Remember, here you need to note two things. We have what we call temporary fluctuations, and we have what we call significant strategic fluctuations. During the implementation of the strategy, the environment might change abruptly, haphazardly, unexpectedly, and therefore cause the change in the degree of evaluation. That is what we call temporary fluctuation. But the environment or the barrier or the challenge might occur on the implementation of the strategy because You didn't do the correct, the right, the scientific, the scholarly analysis before strategy formulation. That is what we call significant strategic what? Fluctuation or problem. What is gap analysis? That was variance analysis. Gap is the difference. Variance is the difference. So how are they different? Gap analysis is the difference between the current position and the desired future position. So if you are keen enough, you are flowering intelligently enough, you will note that variance analysis is the past and the present, while gap analysis is the present and the future. Wow. I repeat, variance analysis is the past and the present, while the gap analysis is the present and the future. Here you compare the current position, the current situation, or the desired future position. How is my today's situation different from where I want to go? And then you are able to establish strength you have, the shortcomings you have. So that is what we call gap analysis. Now, there are different forms of gaps analysis. Number one is what we call performance gaps. Performance gaps. This is the gap. This is the difference. This is the failure to meet the planned target. The second one is resource gaps. Now, when you have resources that are not able to support the full implementation of the strategic initiative, strategic objective, strategic priority, we call it resource gap. We have capability gap. When you have the resources, and when we talk of capabilities, we are relying to the skills, the knowledge, and the attitude among the employees. When your employees lack the required skills, the required trainings, the required knowledge, skills, or competences, then we call it capability gaps. I can be very good in finance and accounts, but I fail to teach it. Although I'm very good, I have a very good GPA. One of the problems that we have in the universities, we look at the GPA in order to employ some people. But I'm telling you, there are very good people with a very good GPA. Comes to performance, come to the practice of it. They have very good GPA. They have become the best student. Now, go to the reality. You cannot compare this person with the GPA. I can call myself a professor or a doctor. I can call myself an engineer, an advocate, a lawyer. Yet I cannot perform according to my name. And that's why those people usually prioritize their titles, doctor, advocate, CPA. But are they practical? Can they perform? So when we lack the skills, the knowledge, and the attitude, right attitude required, this always also gives me the problem when we meet students who would like to perform, yet they don't study, they don't attend to the class, they don't perform assignments. There are even who come and they try. They want marks that they have never served. Kindly not come to CRN because they are in the burning furnace to become a gold one day. In fact, gap analysis help us to understand where we can improve, but in relation to the resources that we have. Benchmarking is already done during strategy appraisal. But if we had appraisal, which is actually monitoring, we also have benchmarking by comparing your performance vis-a-vis another organization. You compare the service you have. For instance, how do we compare our teaching vis-a-vis the teaching of another organization? How do you compare our strategic management module and another, strategic management module of another institution? I think we are the best. How do you compare your performance and another organization performance? So when doing evaluation, you also evaluate through comparisons. And you can do what we call internal benchmarking. Here you compare the departments or directorates or units or branches within your organization. Which one is performing the best, which one is performing, and therefore it can be learned from that. But also you can do what we call competitive benchmarking. Here you compare, you evaluate the performance vis-a-vis the competitor. Most of the soft drink companies would like always to compare their performance with the best Coca-Cola Corporation. Functional benchmarking, here you compare the performance vis-a-vis the specific organizational functions. But also we have generic benchmarking. Here you compare your processes performance vis-a-vis the general processes of the industry. Why? At the end of the day, you learn where you are not doing well and where you need to do the best. Before I land down this plane, let's see what we call strategic outcomes. When we do strategy evaluation, one of the things that we need to establish is what we call strategic outcomes. Here, we are talking of the desired results after establishing the output. So here, we want to focus, we want to evaluate whether we have generated, we have achieved the desired results out of the strategic priorities or objectives that we had. So remember, results are divided into three categories: output, outcome, and impact. When I talk of outcomes here, sometimes I'm referring to both outcomes and impact. So they are the results that go beyond output. So you evaluate those results of the mid or long term. And they can be in terms of quantitative or they can be in terms of qualitative nature. So when here you evaluate the outcome in terms of profitability, revenue growth, return on investment, productivity, market share, cost efficiency. Qualitatively, you can measure how customers are satisfied about your performance, how employees are committed, what kind of innovation have you brought so far, what is your reputation and position in the market, how stakeholders internally or externally are satisfied. In fact, when doing strategic outcome evaluation, consider the achievements, consider the the mid-term and the long term. Why? For the purpose of sustainability. Something to remind you from project management point of view, particularly in the field or in the component known as monitoring and evaluation. When we do monitoring and evaluation, we consider the following: relevance, effectiveness, efficiency, impact, sustainability. So whatever impact or outcome you establish shortly, medium term, or long term, you want to maintain sustainability. Coca-Cola has been there and other companies. So if I ask you this question, there are different barriers, there are different challenges we can face during the implementation of the strategy. Last time we were talking about implementation and different factors, for instance, inadequate financial resources, weak leadership commitment. And if you refer back to the topic I taught you last time, implementation, I taught you about different organizational factors or external factors that can challenge the implementation of the strategy, and so to strategy evaluation. For instance, you want to do the strategy control and evaluation, you don't have resources. You have a bad organizational culture that do not want about evaluation. Okay, that I taught you last time. So there are different challenges that can cause that problem. So we have finished our topic. We have finished the second subtopic. So the name of the topic is strategy, evaluation, and control. So far, we have done strategy appraisal setup in terms of understanding the meaning of strategy appraisal and different activities that are connected to strategy appraisal setup, like development of performance indicators, establishment of appraisal criteria and standards, performance measurement tools, as well as strategic review and the monitoring processes. We went further by learning subtopic number 2, approaches to strategy evaluation, whereby we have seen different principles and approaches to strategy evaluation. We have compared the planned and actual performance, variance and gap analysis, benchmarking, assessment of strategy, identification of implementation challenges, and corrective measures. So we are left with subtopic number 3, and I think we will do it next time. But there is this assignment here. It says, the Institute of Accountancy Arusha has been implementing its strategic plan 2022-2027 with the aim of strengthening its competitiveness, enhancing service delivery, and improving institutional performance. Consistent with strategic management principles, the institution established a number of strategic objectives and the performance targets to guide implementation and facilitate performance monitoring. Among the key strategic objectives were increasing student enrollment by 25%, improving student satisfaction with the teaching and learning services, expanding the use of digital learning platforms and online service delivery, enhancing graduate employability through stronger industry engagement and partnerships, increasing internally generated revenue by 20%. As part of its annual strategic review process, IEIA conducted a performance assessment at the end of 2025. The review sought to compare actual performance against planned targets and identify areas requiring corrective action, which is a fundamental aspect of strategy evaluation and control. The results of the review are summarized below. Strategic objective by 2025 and actual performance 2025. Student enrollment growth, 25% increase, 15% increase. Student satisfaction, 85% satisfaction rate, 70% satisfaction rate. Digital adoption, digital learning adoption, 90% of courses offered online, like what I'm doing now, 75% of courses offered online. Graduate employability, 80% of IIA graduates are employed within 12 months after graduation, while 65% employed within 12 months after graduation. Revenue growth of the institute is 20% increase, 18% increase in terms of actual performance. So if you check here, 20% planned, the actual is 18. 80% planned, 65% actual. 90% planned, 75 actual. 85% planned, 70% actual. 25% planned, 15% actual. Following the review, the management team expressed the concern that several strategic targets has not been achieved as planned. The institution therefore intends to strengthen its strategy evaluation and control systems in order to improve performance during the remaining implementation period of the strategic plan. Assumes that you have been appointed as a strategic management consultant like CRN to assist the IIA in evaluating its strategic performance and recommending appropriate control measures. Required, using evidence from the case, identify and explain 3 performance indicators that IIA is using to monitor the implementation of its strategic plan. 6 marks. Conduct a variance analysis for any 3 strategic objectives by comparing the planned targets with the actual performance achieved. Clearly indicate the variance and state whether the variance is favorable or unfavorable. You remember of positive and negative. Based on the results obtained, recommend 3 strategic control measures. So we have not done this strategic control. We have not done, but you can do from the normal experience. So this makes the end of our lecture today. Remember, this is the last day to submit your assignment. Make sure that I see 10 passport sizes on your assignment. Make sure that I see 10 signatures on the text. Make sure that your group leader do the video required within the time required. And make sure that you also prepare the required PPT, and all the assignments, all the documents must be sent by a leader of the group. Remember to follow the instructions. If it is the member, a group leader doing, remember to follow the instructions. It was a good time to have you. And I thank God because you are improving. You are now improving. You have been very quiet. No disturbance. Frank Leonidas, welcome for a comment, a question, a suggestion. Accepting, never requesting for an extension of assignment submission. Karibu.
Thank you, Doctor. So my concern is with
group members, because there are other groups with less than 10 members, because the full class does not divide by 10. So
The variance and the
especially
gap analysis of the number are notable, so it doesn't matter. If you are two
my
passport
next question
sizes,
is, are we allowed to
passport
send
sizes,
zip?
if you are three passport sizes, one member is making the video. So I know there are gaps and variance analysis. There are variance and gaps. So I take into account on that. Next.
Considering the big or the size of the video, are we allowed to send the zip file?
I have not heard you properly.
Are we allowed to send the zip file so that we can compress the three submission together to reduce the
I
amount?
requested that you go and rest on the new mattress on the instructions given.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, doctor.
Yes.
I was asking submission. Are we submitting individual or one member can submit on behalf?
Antabo, John Nyandabano, have you not heard what I said?
Yes, doctor.
Theopista Kumwenda, can you help me to say something on the video? It is pronounced as video, not video, but video, according to UK English or British English. Theopista Kumwenda, what have I said about the video?
You say a group leader or group representative should make a video and submit as a person that will represent the whole group.
Fact. John, clear?
No, not clear, sir. So you will submit on the video or?
I requested that you buy the wedding cloth and you wear it for the wedding of the instructions in the assignment. Yes. Theopista Kumwenda?
Yes, doctor, my question is where, sorry, it might be
Can you
repetitive,
say
but
question? Can you pronounce question? Question.
questions.
Question.
Okay, thank you,
Theopista,
doctor. So are we putting the signatures on the assignment or on PowerPoint?
I request you to check out where the signatures are required on the assignment given.
Now?
Rukuba Kisi?
Yeah, thank you so much, Doctor. Mine is not a question, but just to comprehend on the calmness lecturing, well deliverable, and we do appreciate for the session of today. Thank you so much, Doctor, on that.
Rukuba, really, there is performance. We are able to evaluate the performance. These are now managers. As we go along toward the end of the semester, you are now becoming managers. So thank you very much, Urukuba, that you have noted that. People are now quiet. They know how to mute their mic. They know how to speak like managers. So I really even appreciate myself. Thank you very much, Urukuba, for that comment. Mupulaki, Mohamed Mupulaki, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Doctor. One of the instruction about the submission of the task, the group member must be the one who's supposed to submit the task. Unfortunately, in our group chairperson was offline today for the whole day, and we decided to choose one of the group member to send the task on behalf of the chairperson. So with that sense, we're supposed to resend it again, or is that enough?
Never interfere your internal administrative, and therefore go into your dressing room and wear and continue with your internal group administration. Umsalama Moshi.
Very much. I have actually two concerns, if not three. The first one is you have said you need 10 passport size of the members of each group. My concern is, are we putting the passport size on the PPT, I mean the PowerPoint, or the Microsoft, I mean the Word doc, And another concern is you have said you need signatures of the members, of all 10 members. Did you just say you need all 10 signatures, or only the one who is presenting the work? You just need his signature on the work. And another concern is, before I forget, is you have said you need the work to be uploaded to the Moodle, but unfortunately Moodle is not working. I don't know if it's working right now, but it means we are going to just send this Word doc assignment to your email, to that CRN email, and also this video of which we're going to create. Is it going to be sent to your email also? Can you please elaborate that for us, Doctor? Thank you.
There are three concerns. One, passport sizes. Where to place the passport sizes are already indicated in the instruction given in your assignment. Number two is the platform. It is true that the platform has been challenging. That's why in all these years, when I give an assignment, I have also to give a backup. So the backup that you have there is my email. So if the platform is not working out, send your both required through my email, video, PPT, as well as the text. And to simplify, you can even zip. So that it simplifies the sending.
Okay,
is there anything that I have forgotten?
Nothing, Doctor. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Omul Salama Mosh. I don't know whether that is your correct name. We have the last person for today, Saidi Chikota. The platform is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening.
I have just one question. There are some groups. They have attended the assignment earlier, and all the group members submitted the work to you. How will you comment about that? Thank you.
If they have sent to me and they have followed all the instructions, I praise, crown, and flowers them. Let them join me on my banquet and enjoy it. But if they have not followed the instructions, better they resent to rescue the situation. In fact, I don't want them to miss my wedding and my banquet. Therefore, there is a second chance to buy the wedding cloth and join the banquet.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Mary Kimambo, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Doctor. Mine is a congratulation note, as the previous speaker said, but backed up with a request. I wish to request that if at all we will miss any of the instructions given because of the challenges that are associated with this kind of learning model that we are using, kindly, it's like I'm requesting you to consider that we are really trying to catch up with the instructions given, but these questions that are coming up shows that some of us might have missed exactly what do you want. For example, in our group, we are trying to use 3 minutes to record what we are presenting to you, and I realized that it's very short. 3 minutes is not enough to cover the whole work that we have prepared, and this one remains as a challenge to us.
Can you summarize just in one sentence what we have discussed today?
Regarding the submission of this assignment,
Just
or
today, what have we learned today in one sentence?
that's a lot, Doctor. I cannot really. That's a lot. I will need some a
From the
little
very
bit of.
beginning, when I started teaching this module, I have tried to teach you how you can make technical presentations. Whatever document you write, whatever information you have, try to summarize in one sentence. If today I ask you to write about your husband, just give me one statement about your husband, about your wife, about your organization, about your children. I remember sometimes I got a challenge somewhere. It was in Copenhagen University when I was supposed to present a book of 386 pages just in 3 minutes. And I did it. So, Saidi Chikota, can you say in one statement, in one sentence, what we have learned today?
Thank you, Doctor. Today, we learned about topic number 5, that implementation and the strategy evaluation. And in the strategy evaluation, you have
I just need one statement, one sentence. I just need one sentence.
Okay,
just
Doctor,
one sentence.
Okay, today we have learned about strategy evaluation and how organization can evaluate the strategies.
Just one sentence. Just one sentence. Just one sentence. Sijui kama nikukumbusheni form 3 kidato kile cha 3 tulisoma kuhusu sentensi. Tukasema sentensi ni kikundi cha maneno chenye maana kamili.
Na?
Don't worry. Na hatuanzi na sentensi kwenye Kiingereza wa kusema today. Today ni kielezi. Kielezi kinatakiwa kikae wapi? Anyway, Josephat Haule. So I believe with reference to what Kimambo said, 3 minutes are more. You can even use just 1 minute to summarize your assignment. In 1 minute is enough. And I urge you, because some of you will be presenting, including my student John. John here. I have seen his name here, John. Learn how to do technical presentation. You are told in one sentence, say what we have learned today. Jifunze kuanza sentensi yako na kiima na kiarifu. Jifunze kuandika sentensi fupi lakini zenye maana kamili. Achana na sentensi changamano, shurutia, ambatano na sentensi changamano. Jifunze kutumia sentensi huru au sentensi sahili. You'll avoid a lot of mistakes when you use simple sentence rather than using complex, conditional, or even compound sentences. So with reference to what Kimambo said, 3 minutes are more than enough. You can even use 1, and then you convey the message. Josephine Matia.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Matia.
I'm sorry, doctor. Can I speak in Swahili so that
You can
everyone can
even use in
understand?
your own language, Chinese, French, or whatever. You are most welcome. We are not learning language here. We are not
Thank you.
learning language here.
Thank you, doctor. Sijui kama Siara alikuletea concern yetu kuhusu haya mambo ya signature, kwa sababu tunatakiwa kutuma signature kwa yule kiongozi wa grupu, then akazimerge kwenye ile front page. Sasa tulipata discussion kidogo kuhusu hiyo issue ya signature. Wengine waliona kwamba signature zao kwenda huku na huku kidogo inaleta ukakasi kwenye mambo ya security. Sasa sijajua kama Siara aliweza kuileta hiyo kwako.
Ambaye yuko tayari kutuma na
Ndio.
kuweka signature yake anaweza akatuma, na ambaye hayuko tayari muache.
Sawa.
Lakini maelekezo yanasema kwamba muweke sahihi. Kama mpo 10, basi nategemea kuziona sahihi 10.
Asante
Kama
dokta.
mpo 3, natarajia kuziona sahihi 3. Yule
Asante
anayezungumzia security, asiyezungumzia security, mshauri tuangalie maelekezo ya kazi.
Sawa dokta, nashukuru.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Bila shaka tumefanikiwa kwa siku hii ya leo, na Mungu amekuwa mwaminifu upande wetu. Nakushukuruni sana kwa ushirikiano wenu.
One question,
Kuna
Doctor.
sauti penyeza naisikia. Karibu.
Yes, the last assignment, are we supposed to do it, or it's just a homework?
Which last assignment?
The last question you just
That
read
will
before you
be
conclude
done
it.
when I finish up subtopic number 3.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Doctor.
Nikutakieni usiku mwema. Usiku
Nakushukuru sana Doctor.
Thank you,
usiku
Doctor.
wa amani, usiku wa furaha.
Asante.
Thank you,
Tunapobaki na
doctor.
familia zetu kuliko kwenda kubaki na wengine. Nikutakieni usiku
Asante
mwema.
doctor.
Mungu awe
Thank you,
pamoja na
doctor.
ninyi na kuombeni, tutafanya vizuri sana.
Nawe
Tutafanya
pia.
Amina, na
vizuri,
kwako.
tutafanikiwa
Amina
tu.
na wewe pia Doctor.